Hello, I welcome you all in this presentation. In this presentation, basically, I'll be talking about how to develop a proposal, either for research or for getting the funding from the sponsored project funding agencies. So here, stepwise, we'll be going through the details about the procedure for development of a proposal. So here, the main objective of this presentation is to understand the need of doing the things. You see, whenever any work for the research is proposed, we need to identify how it is going to help. What is that new thing that will be developed, new thing that will be understood, or new thing that will be produced in form of product or process. So that we need to understand first the need of doing that new thing, so that it is useful for society or useful for the human being in making their life easier. And the second objective is to learn the methodology for developing a research proposal, which can be used for MTech dissertation, PhD thesis, or sponsored projects. So depending upon the purpose, the scope of the proposal can change significantly. It can be there for a MTech dissertation, for PhD thesis, or a sponsored project as far as the purpose is concerned, and that will be determining the timeline, that is the time for which a project will be undertaken or research work will be done, which may range from 6 months, like in BTech and MTech project dissertations, to 36 months in case of the most sponsored projects, and 60 months in case of the PhD thesis. While developing a proposal, we need to keep in mind the various requirements and the things that we have with us, which may be in form of consumables, the machines, the manpower required for execution, the softwares needed for the simulation, analysis, or computational facilities required for the studies, or any other special requirement. So how about the availability of these items? And something that we don't have, we have to arrange. So for that, we may require funding if it is the case of the sponsored projects. Else we may have to see that the project proposal is developed in light of the availability of the resources in form of consumables, machines, softwares, computational facility, or any other unique requirement related with the project. So here, the most important thing in development of a project is to avoid the wastage of resources in doing the things, in doing the work which has already been done by one research group or another, either in one city, one state, one country, or across the globe. So we need to see that if there is a work which has already been done, then no need to repeat that work again. And therefore it is important that whatever efforts are being done to undertake a particular research, this reinvention of the wheel is avoided, because it takes a lot of efforts, time, resources. So the outcome of the research work must be useful, and it should highlight something that was not there earlier, or it was not well understood. So whenever a research project for dissertation or for a sponsored project or for the PhD thesis is conceptualized, we need to see the outcome of the work must be useful either to the society directly, or it should help in development and growth of science and technology of that field, or it is helping to understand the unknown behaviors of the material, man, machines, society, or the productivity, making the life of the human being easier, in making the life of the human being easier, and if possible, it should address the unique need of the villages, towns, cities, states, or the nations, so that whatever is the outcome of the work, that is helpful and useful, and the work when it is completed can be in form of improvement of the existing systems, processes, materials, or design and development of new products and processes, coming out with the modifications which will help in improving the productivity of a situation, new analysis of current situation which will help to give the new directions for further improvement of the things that are not known. So to start the development of the project, it is important that we understand the basics and fundamentals related to the various topics of the proposed area of the research in which we are planning to make the contributions, and it is suggested that basically area of the research must be selected in such a way that the proposal likes most. As far as the this is the general procedure for development of a project. First step is to understand the current status or the state of art, and that is done through the literature survey. And for this purpose, we may interact with the peers, those who are working in this area. We can refer the research books, research journals, the conference proceedings, and we can also undertake the patent search in that particular area of the research in which the project is being developed, or thesis is being proposed, or dissertation or the research work is being proposed. So a chronological development in that particular area has to be compiled, and which may be done in different ways. About that I will talk little later. Once the literature survey has been done, the literature survey has to be summarized to see really what has been done so far in this particular area, so that we can avoid the repetition of the same thing. This is one purpose, and the second purpose is that analysis of the contributions in the research so far in that particular area which is being proposed will help us to find out the research gaps and the areas or the kind of things which can be done. So basically analysis of the research contribution so far in a particular area gives us the research gaps and the possibilities of the work that can be done in a particular area. This will help to avoid the reinvention of wheel, as well as it at the same time they are useful in different ways, either to society, to improve a given situation, or to improve the productivity, to understand the unknown things, etc. So based on these research gaps and considering the availability of the resources, we try to conceptualize your own proposal so that the research gaps identified can be filled in. So basically the first step is to do the literature survey in a proposed area of research, summarize that research which has been done, and analysis of that research will give us the research gaps on which work can be taken up, And using these research gaps and considering the availability of resources, we can develop our own proposal to fill up the identified research gaps. So accordingly, we will have to uh, develop or write the specific objectives of the proposed work, and these objectives must be clear, achievable, and quantifiable. It may be written in different forms, but it is common to write like to analyze a particular thing, to fabricate a particular component, to design and develop something, to optimize parameters, to simulate a particular phenomena, or to investigate a particular aspect. So like this, we try to write the different objectives of the proposed research. Thereafter, what will be the stepwise methodology for realizing those objectives is written. And the additional thing is that in case of the computational work and simulation studies, it is important that proposer must identify how he will be validating the results either through the experiments or using the published data. In general, approach of the research involves three components. One is the input stage, second is the processing, and third is the output stage. In the input stage, we can look for the kind of parameters which have not been investigated, the range of parameters which have not been investigated, the kind of the materials or the newer materials are being developed, the materials for which particular kind of studies have not been done, or the unique combination of the materials is being explored, or to use such kind of the simulations which will help us to understand the things in better way for experimentation or to understanding. Similarly, at the processing stage, we can use the different tools, the different designs, different processes, different treatments, and we can also look for the hybridization of the process for the betterment of the productivity, betterment of the output from the processing. Similarly, whatever output that we are getting has to be seen in terms of like let us characterize the things that we have got in, whether it is good or not, or generate the new data so that it can be used for the design purpose, or let us see that how the things will perform in new and unique situations. Testing the things in the conditions under which it has not been tested before, or validate the results of simulations or computational studies. So the idea here is to see, like in any research, it is always good that uniqueness exists in all these three components. Like we are investigating using those new input parameters, a new material, new simulation studies which have not been done earlier. Similarly, we are proposing to use the processing methodologies using tools, designs, processes, or hybridations on which work has not been done earlier. Similarly, we are planning to characterize, to generate the data. We want to test the output in such a way that the understanding about the performance, about the properties under those situations is not well known. So it is expected in any research that all these three components are new. If not all three, then at least the input, processing, or output, at least at two stages there has to be novelty. Like if the same process parameters on which so many people have done the work earlier, but you are using novel tools, novel design, or newer processes, newer treatment methodologies, similarly newer way of characterization, newer data generation, newer way of testing, or if the conventional output methodology for characterization, testing, or data generation is to be used, then at least the input and the processing methodologies must be unique, so that the repetition of the work can be avoided, and your research work is able to come out with the findings and observations which are not duplicated, and that is how the reinvention of the wheel is avoided. uh, then as I have said, to avoid the, it is important that we understand the current status uh, or the state of art of a particular proposed area, and that is very important. So it has to be communicated with a clarity what is the current status and what are the research gaps, either to assess, to evaluate the suitability of the project proposal for funding, or suitability of the project proposal to allow to undertake the research in a particular area. And this state of art or the current status is developed considering the research which is being done at national level or at international level. Whenever the literature is collected, we will find that there are tens of the research papers or literature available in a particular area. So systematic organization of the literature is important, and that can be done in light of the area on which the research is being proposed. So the literature survey can be developed using the subheadings like the material based, what work has been done on like aluminum, steel, cast iron, titanium, or the process based like how the joining has been done using the sealed metal arc welding process, gas metal arc welding process, or submerged arc welding process, laser welding, etc. Or it can be process parameter based like what current, voltage, speed has been used. Similarly, newer approaches based like in to deal with a particular kind of problems, what various approaches have been utilized. So those literature can be summarized using those newer approaches, and how the different tools have been utilized to understand the to investigate the particular process or to analyze the results. Then what characterization methods like the mechanical characterization, tribological characterization, corrosion, erosion, abrasion, tensile properties, hardness, etc. that has to be seen. And this literature survey can also be developed in which sequence the various developments in a particular area have taken place. So that way also the state of art can be developed. This will help in coming out with a clear research graphs which will help to justify the objectives of the proposed research and the need to undertake the work. The focus is extremely important in any research project, whether it is being done for the dissertation, for the PhD thesis, or for the sponsored project. There should be coherency and consistency in the entire project proposal, right from the introduction, literature survey, the research gaps, objectives, methodology being proposed, and then deliverables. And also there should be the area which is being proposed should be consistent with the expertise of the proposer. So it is important that there is a coherency and focus in the proposal from beginning to the end to avoid any deviation in the proposed research topic. So it is important that in light of the summary of the research gaps identified, and the objectives which have been identified for the proposed research, we have to think very coolly, conceptualize the entire proposal, and then write your own draft of the proposal. Because if you write on your own, then you will be able to write it with the clarity and with the proper flow. It's okay to have few poorly framed statement in the proposal, and the proposal also clearly identify the uniqueness and the novelty as compared to the others work. At the same time, whatever is the novelty and the uniqueness in the proposal, that must justify the need to undertake the work. Like while developing the proposal, it is also important, as I have said earlier, clearly see what resources are available at our disposal or what can be made available through the other sources. And something that is still not available, we need to identify those resources, which may be in form of the man, material, machines, testing systems, uh, the computational facilities, softwares, computers, etc. So identify those resources which are needed for completion of the proposed work, something which is available and something which is available at our disposal, something which is available at other sources. That has to be clearly identified, and based on this, prepare the item wise funding requirement. If we are writing a sponsored project, then clearly identify how much money is needed for the manpower in form of senior research fellow, junior research fellow, or research associate. Then what is the kind of funding needed for the one or two equipments. Then what are the funding will be needed for attending the conferences, arranging the literature, what will the funding needed for arranging the consumables for completion of the work, what will be the requirement for the contingency, etc. All that is compiled item wise. And then also it should propose the plan for procurement and development of the setup or the equipment that is being proposed. It is always good to identify the milestones, the major stages in the proposed work, and what is the scope of those milestones, and what will be the timeline for completion of those milestones. That has to be identified. The another important thing is proposal must be consistent with the core competence of the proposer, like the area in which he has the expertise. Either he has, say, the graduation or the master's degree, the kind of subjects that he has studied, the kind of research publications he has. So based on the competence of the proposer, he should propose the research in a particular area. It is important to identify what will be the output or the deliverables when the project is completed. This is important to see precisely what can be expected from the proposal on completion of the work, so that the science and technology or the society will be benefited. And these may be in form of developing a new process, developing newer materials, coming out with the newer procedures which will reduce rejection, improve the productivity, coming out with the newer products or layouts, coming out with the newer designs which are with the more features, more reliable, are able to work under the more hostile conditions, or generating the newer data for the design purpose, or generating the newer methods to deal with the challenges, new way of looking at the new analysis. And the deliverables finally are recognized also in form of publications, patents, productivity improvement, or the problem resolution related things. So what we have seen is what is the general methodology for writing a proposal. That is what I have taught here. I will